discussing career in design and how you can get there. And just gonna quickly ask you folks to let me know in the chat if you can hear me clearly, if everything is working all right. As far as I can see, it's clear. It should be working. Hello, Shubham. Thanks for hosting this. So I'm doing a special, super special live just for you folks right here. So if your friends have not joined in, do make sure you send them a link so they can join in as well. Meghna says, yes, they can hear. Thank you so much, Meghna, for the confirmation. So we're going to get started without much delay. Meanwhile, if you have any questions throughout, feel free to just pop it in the live chat. I'll take a look, and in between, we'll take question as and when they come. So, yes, getting started. So, I want to start quickly with overview of who I am and how did I get here. So the first thing really important is that I started learning around, and the numbers you see here is my age, at what age I was doing something. So around 12, 10 and 12, 11, 12, I started learning about technology, started building and breaking down games, and started building websites. And that's when I realized I like design, and that's when for web designing and website making. By the time I was 16, that's when I had my first income. I made my first money, and it was in USD. It was 1,200 rupees, which was a lot for a first income, 1,200 or something like that. But by the time I was 19 years old and I was in college, first-ish year, second-ish year, around 1920, I dropped out. The reason I dropped out is because at that time by the time I already had a lot of connections in the industry. I was freelancing, I had an income stream, and I was pretty sure that I want to build my own career, and these degrees that are around in the college and what colleges are offering is not going to help me. One of the worlds I got interested in was startups, and another thing that I got interested in is design. If you folks don't know what startups are these technology companies that leverage technology and design and various assets of technology to break the value chain. We're going to come to that in a second. But that's what startups do. And one of the startups was Instamojo. So I joined, it was a client of my earlier agency that I was running, a design agency. And Instamojo is a product company, and you can Google, it's one of the largest MSME platforms in the world, and it's certainly largest in the country, with over 7-8 lakh MSMEs on the platform. If you don't know what MSMEs are, micro and small businesses. And we created payment tools for them. So things like payment links, things like smart links, and a bunch of those stuff. And this is back when Paytm was a recharge site. And that I did for about 6-ish years. And now I am at headout.com, and it's one of the top 5 destination websites platform that customers use, that tourists use to do last-minute bookings, right? Which is a growing segment before COVID, and we are seeing a re-emergence of our business after COVID as well, and hope to continue to have safe reopening. So in brief, that is what what leads me to this place of talking to you folks about technology, design, and startup, and that entire world. So the first thing, my fascination begins with technology, and most of you folks can relate when I say technology because we just like to download the latest app, and Shani Ganguly on the chat is asking how to start UI UX from non-technology side. We're going to come to that as well. In fact, I'm going to cover whether you come from technology or you don't come from technology, it does not matter. By the end of this live stream, you will know exactly how to start your UX UI design career, and that too for free. My focus here was to figure out a way for you folks. I learned for free, right? So I want to tell you folks all the ways that are possible to do it for free. So don't worry, Shani, we will for sure cover that before the end of the live stream. So when we speak about technology, a technology is a new method, a new way of doing something. What that does is it breaks the value chain. What a value chain is, let's say, how do you get your phones or screen that you're watching today? A certain company produces it, then they manufacture it, design it, spec it out, and then put it into products, and then those companies market those products, phones or laptops to you, and then finally people buy it. People like Amazon and retailers sell it, and finally it arrives to you by a shipping partner. So that entire thing, way a thing is delivered to you, is called the value chain. So if you look at Swiggy, right? they broke the value chain, right? We're going to look at how design looks at this value chain disruption and aids technology as well. Technology, again, is an amplifier. A lot of people say, look at technology making us antisocial. But look at technology making us social right here. I would have not, it wouldn't have been possible to visit you awesome folks and talk about this in person. So we are doing this with technology, right? So technology can also help you amplify human behavior or build new behavior or build new tools to do this. For example, this how we are doing this live stream, right? This is the loop that makes this go around, right? There's technology which makes us because it exists because of certain behavior, and then that behavior causes technology to emerge. Because of behavior, certain businesses come around which fund new technologies, and then those technologies can enable new businesses. For example, things like Bitcoin or transfer and UPI, a lot of things would not be possible without that technology. A lot of businesses wouldn't be possible without that. But now they are, and now because those businesses are possible, new behaviors start to emerge. For example, we all of us know how to hunt for discount coupons. How do we know that? Because that's a new behavior that emerged after we started seeing that technology, and business started using that to promote that stuff. So that is how that loop functions. And to speak about what is the power of this technology and this loop is we just need to look at few examples. One of them is WhatsApp, which was valued at $1 billion. $1 billion by Facebook, and they only had 50 people when they got acquired. 50 people, $1 billion. Just do the math. That leverage, folks, is only possible in the technology world. That is what technology allows us to do. And if you further want to look at the power of technology and design and the startup world where I come from, you only look at the most valuable tech company in the world, Apple. And they swear by design. They just worship design. Right? Design is everything to them. So if you're not convinced about the power of design, this should do it for you, because there's something into design that made this company so valuable. So we're gonna look at that, what design is. Is design just patterns and colors and visuals? Most of you who got introduced to design, right, or are interested in design would get introduced to design from the visual aspect, which is completely fine. Design has those aspects, but that's not all design. What design is? Let's look at some bad designs to see what design, when design fails, what happens, right? So imagine eating with those kind of spoons. That's going to be a terrible experience. Now, design, Steve Jobs famously said, design is not just how it looks, but how it works as well. And we can extrapolate that example when we say another famous person said, I'm forgetting the name. That person said, customers are not buying quarter-inch drill bits. They are buying quarter-inch holes in the wall. And you can extrapolate, as a designer, you can extrapolate that thinking. They are not buying quarter-inch holes in the wall. They are doing that, making that hole so they can hang a painting. So what if you created something that allows them to hang a painting? So if you look up 3M, one of the companies that employs design, made alternative to nails. You have Velcro stickers that you can hang a painting on the wall without using nails. And imagine drinking with that cup. Imagine watering that kind of watering can. That last example can help us understand what design really is. Design is a specification to render a system, process, object, or interface or artifacts. As you can see, this simple looking watering can is actually a system. It allows you to hold it in its hand, and that it has a certain signifier for that. And then it's scalable. You can make it in multiple sizes. You can make it in a factory. It doesn't require really special education or training to use. It's affordable. It's adaptable, and these kind of aspects come to design. That's why design is way beyond what it looks like. And this is what we meant by value chain as well, right? But this is how design looks at it. First, people used to make their own bread, and then now people got baked bread, and then sliced bread came along, and apparently it was so good that till date we say is the best thing since sliced bread. So these are a couple of examples of how that disruption happens, and now you can get home delivery of these things. Another example of design, from your day-to-day life is switchboards. Have you ever visited a friend's house and you go to the washroom and you have to switch on all the switches because you can't figure out which one it is? Now, designers are genius. They figured out that you can, with this 5-6 switches, you can cover all use cases. But still, if you break the expectation, like you go to a new place where you don't know how they map, or if I replace one of these switches with a wire, the design will break down. That's when you start to realize the true value of design. right? Another example that I want to give is, how many of you can recognize this app? How many of you can recognize this app? And if you can, let me know in the live chat. But I want you to also pay attention that all the words are gone. So is design just colors and visuals? Then this should work, but it doesn't, because design is also about language. We're quickly gonna take a question. Sneha Chakrabarti says, I want to use Adobe products to design websites. How do I get them and start using them for free provided, given I'm second year CS student? Sneha, I want to ask you, why do you want to only use Adobe products? Is there a specific reason? Because there are tons of products that you could use to make that happen for yourself. And we have answers in the chat. Ananya Gupta and Ananya Gupta and Meghna guessed it right, which is Swiggy. Madhav, I'm sorry, it is not Grofers, it is Swiggy. Ishani also guessed it right, it is Swiggy, right? And this is also design. From the colors, from the memory, you can figure out what it is, and but it does not work. From beyond that, if I asked you to use this app, you won't be able to. So both sides, you see the impact of design. This is my friend Swiggy, and the moment I put one word on there, you can immediately see what is happening, right? I read the word no contact delivery. Now, there are a couple of things happening in my brain. This we study in psychology. I look up the word delivery and no contact. Then I know, okay, delivery is something, there's a service on the app. I order something, then it gets delivered. What does no contact mean these days? No, there's a contact when you get delivery done, but these days COVID-19 is happening, so I have safety concerns. So that is what they mean by no contact delivery. All of that happens in your mind, right, within seconds, and that is what designers want to do. That is what that simple sentence called no contact delivery does in your mind. That's what it communicates, and this is what designers think about, right? Another example I want to give you, if all of you folks watching here live, I wanted to if I was to ask you, is past in front of you or behind you, right? If I was to ask you, most of you would say that the past is behind you, right? In fact, you fast forward on this YouTube stream and you go back to what you've already watched. It's set in our language. It's set in it's set in our worldview, and language tells us that. Language will tell you, I'm looking back at my past. I'm looking forward to my future. But ancient Greeks had a slightly different point of view around it. They said that future is behind you, because you can't see future and you can't see behind you. So the future is behind you, and whatever the present is right in front of your eyes, and as it happens, it passes away, and all the past you can see, so it's right in front of you. Because you can see the past is in front of you, you can't see the future is behind you, and everything that is right now, right? Which is a valid way of looking at the world. But that's not the world view we have, and this also is shown in their language. So that is why design goes into language as well. It's not just about aesthetics. But when we come to aesthetics, we go like colors. Yeah, okay, let's make it look pop, exciting. But I want you folks to quickly do another exercise with me. These are 3 colors that you can see on the screen. I want you to give one word for each of these colors. What does it mean to you, right? What would this color represent for you? So one word for each color. So 3 words you want to put and send that answer in the chat as you're looking on the screen. Meanwhile, I'm going to take up the follow-up question from Sneha. Sneha says, just got to know only that, so that's kind of famous. That's it. Makes sense, Sneha. I'm going to give you alternates by the end of the stream. For almost every Adobe software out there, there is a free alternative that you can start picking up. And the basics of those design tools are pretty much the same. There's pen tool, gradient tool, basic tools, which are true across the board. And then you can, you can pick those tools up, and let's say tomorrow you join a company or you start a profession where you do need to use Adobe tools. It will not take you a lot of time to learn that tool. So Figma, for example, especially if you want to get started with UI UX design, what people call, then you should definitely look at Figma. So we have some answers, folks. We have answers. Meghna says red danger, red violence danger, vegetables, green food, red hard, peace, orange peace, safe, orange political. Beautiful answers, folks. Beautiful answers, right? Now, this right here, I don't even need to go to the next slide. Your answers are revealing that how we contextually process color. There's no universal meaning of this color, right? Because I could say in different cultures, these colors mean different things. In fact, these all are borderline religious colors in certain countries. Some of you got closer to, like, this was a trick game. Every answer is right. All of you guessing are right, folks. You're oh, beautiful answer. Aman Dixit says Zomato, Grofers, and Swiggy. Love that answer. Love that answer. Red Danger. All right, Utkarsh, Meghna, Ishani, Madhav. Thank you so much for your answers. So this is what I mean by, like, colors can have different interpretation. They are not universal meaning. Every culture, every place, every context has its own meaning of color and aesthetics as well. And that is what aesthetics are about. It's just not about how it looks like. It's a lot of interpretation behind that goes as well. Because if you were to use the wrong color in wrong context, bad stuff can happen. So now we can look at a holistic view of what design is doing, and we are coming closer to what you folks are excited about, which is, this theory and everything. How do I make a new, nice looking app? I know, but we're going to get to that. But you will become a far better designer if this is the approach to design you take, right? So that is why I'm starting there, folks. Now, if you look at this chart that you can see on the screen, there are two people. There's a system, right? There's let's say your product, right? Which has some signal, some aesthetics, some interface, some user interface, as they call it. There's a system there, right? It exists in a socio-economic environmental reality. And so does your user, right? Your user has a body, your user has senses, they have a cognition, they have self-awareness, and they have agency, right? And there's an interaction that happens between what you design, right? What your product, company, software, service, whatever, poster, whatever you design, artifact, right? It's that system and this user who's using that system interact, right? And these are the interactions in this environment, being aware of the socio-economic and environmental realities of that user. We design these interactions, and that is where the term interaction design comes from. But I'm racing ahead of myself. I just want to quickly give you a glimpse of what the history of this modern product UI UX interaction design looks like, right? So there are parallel tracks that start in the history. We're not going to get too much into that, but they were media and communication folks, and they had artists and graphic designer, concept artists working for them. That was one line of work. And we had architects, right, from the longest time, and they knew about things about sustainability, value creation, understanding cultures, understanding things like usability. And later on, we will see rise of industrial age, which means mass production. Earlier, bread and everything, like we said, was being made at homes or by local artisans, and now you can mass produce breads. And that is when we see the rise of industrial design, and industrial design with the rise of industrial age. Industrial designers are the people who design your laptop and the phones that you're watching all of this live on. They are the ones that design physical products. Furniture designer, architects, all of them, you can count them under industrial design. They inherit a lot of values from architect. And then engineering comes along and builds supercomputers, and eventually there comes the rise of personal computers. Then with personal computers, all three merge, because that's when you see Apple making the first mouse, the first graphical user interface. This is when engineers start talking about something called human-computer interaction and talking about usability engineering. That's when graphic designers come in and start making it look better. And all of these, as human-computer interaction designers, we inherit all these first principles from these three different backgrounds, from engineering, architectural, industrial design, and media, art, communication, and graphic design. And that's when we saw the rise in 90s of these terms called web design and UI design. But then we saw another rise of another change in technology. Like, remember that loop we spoke about? This is why it's so important to understand, folks, that because it's going to happen over and over again. Then we saw emergence of mobile, internet, hyperconnectivity, and that is when we see the lines between product, services, business, this here vanishing. Is Ola the app in your phone or the cab that comes? What is exactly Ola? Now, this rise of new age of startups and businesses which defy a traditional understanding of what product or mass-produced product or service is and how design should cater to them gives rise to this new paradigm, a return of a larger umbrella of sort of UX and interaction design. And now we see new terms like product design and product manager coming in, because this startup and business awareness comes in, right? So all of these terms have slightly different meaning. A web designer is specifically focused on web design. A UI designer may be designing user interface for any kind of user interface. A UX and interaction designer, like we spoke, works on any sort of interaction. So what UX and interaction folks do is they say, I don't care whether I'm designing an interface or I'm designing a service or I'm designing a landing page or I'm designing a YouTube live stream. I am designing interactions here. So I am an interaction designer, right? A product designer says that we don't ship features and designs to customers. We ship full products, end-to-end thought out products, something that customer interacts with. That's where product analogies come into picture. And there are two separations that happen. From design side, we see rise of product designer, a designer and interaction designers who is also aware of business. What are the goals of business? Where will more profit come from? How will customers behave if I give them this kind of offer, right? So you bring in this new market and business awareness to make this new breed of designers called product designers. And today you will see mostly product designer, interaction designer, or UX designer being used as a term. Somewhere you see UX/UI designer, but that's really a confusion. You can see how UI designer was a different era of term, and UI and UX design mean completely different things, right? While UI is a part of UX design, but you can't say UI/UX. You're talking about two different folks. And product manager, you will not hear this term right now, maybe in college, but what product managers do is they bridge this gap between engineers, business, and designers, and they look at the market. So I have this much, this is my world. These are so many people who will buy this mobile phone. Out of these people, they are looking for camera. So if I add camera, these many people buy at this price point. So somebody who does that, who understands how a product, how customers will react to a product in the market, is someone who's product manager, and they just coordinate between different teams and do a lot of decisions on behalf of business and other teams. So that's to give you an understanding of what kind of, today when you go out into the market and you apply for jobs, these are the terminologies that you're going to mostly encounter, and now you understand where they come from and what they're talking about. A lot of companies use them interchangeably, so the best idea is to look at their job description. In fact, some people just copy paste job description. So the best thing is to shoot out an email, or if the HR is talking to you, to start talking to the hiring manager or HR about what are the qualities they're looking for in this designer. Often people will say UX, UI designer, but they're actually looking for a graphic or a visual communication designer. Yes, you can write, if a person knows both UI and UX design, you can write UI and UX design, yes. A better terminology may be interaction design or product design. In that case, if you know both, because that is what you're doing now. You're approaching design as an interaction or a product designer. But I can completely understand for freelancing, if you're a freelancer or if you're going in that direction, or if you're going towards companies who are not aware of these terminologies, then just simplifying it to UI UX design also works. But as a designer, you must understand that these terms are different. Examples of a product designer. The Swiggy app we spoke about, or most of the designers working on the Swiggy app were product designers, right? The OS, the Android or Windows or Macintosh or iOS that you're using was designed by product designers. My company, Head Out, we hire mostly product designers, right? We call them product designers, while what all of us are really practicing is theoretically human-computer interaction, or human-aided computer interaction, or computer-aided human-human interaction. What do I mean by computer-aided human-human interaction? This live chat is interaction between two human beings, but it's aided by a computer. So all of us do interaction design, but in a specific way of business-aware thinking. So that's what we mean by product design. Madhav Khurana says, do companies hire fresher as product managers? Very rarely does it happen that, Madhav, that companies hire freshers as product managers, because it's you need work experience to, honestly speaking, to be able to function as a product manager. It's a very nuanced, it's like, unless you know how organizations function already, you're going to struggle as a product manager. So coming quickly to learning design for free. Finally, it is time, folks. It is now time to know how to learn design for free. Meanwhile, if you have more questions, we're going to take them up. Keep hitting me in the chat, live chat. I love so far the questions and interaction you folks are having. Now, you will get a lot of options. You will have design degrees, you will have paid courses. We'll be seeing a new emergence of something, where designers from the industry are offering mentorship and master classes. So that you have joining a college for design, doing a paid course or certification, joining one of these mentor classes, or learning for free. You have 4 options, right? I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to say don't stick to any one of them. We'll talk about how all 4 of them become relevant over time, right? But first we're going to look at the free way, the simplest way. You want to try doing this yourself first. And if you fail, you struggle somewhere, perfect. Now you found a place where you want certification or you want help. But first you got to try it to learn for free as well, right? And here is the 7 simple step, folks. Just 7 steps you do over 4 weeks or 8 weeks. Maximum, it should take you, max to max as students, as people who are already familiar with technology, it should not take you very long. The first step is you learn tool, in which case, forget Adobe and etc., which are expensive. Figma is free. You start learning Figma. The reason you want to learn the tool is because you will imagine interfaces, you will imagine various design aspects, but if you can't put them on the screen, you will struggle. So first you want to learn the tool. How do you learn the tool? You replicate. You go to Dribble, you go to your favorite apps, you learn, you go to YouTube, you learn, there are free tutorials throughout YouTube to learn Figma. Or if you learn like Adobe, you can get free tool called Adobe XD, right? Adobe, if you like Adobe software, already familiar with it, you can download Adobe XD, it's free, and you can start using that. Watch tutorials online to learn the tool. Your goal is to recreate, UI that you see on dribble.com or you see in your real life app. If you like WhatsApp, recreate that UI in the tool, see how that works. You want to learn that. Once you have mastered the art of replicating UI and making nice adjustments to it, now you want to do actual improvements. What if you added a blog post functionality to Twitter? What if you added a thread functionality to WhatsApp chat? What if you wanted to add a new feature to WhatsApp group? That is how you want to add in existing app new features. And then you want to pick, and once you're comfortable with that, you can turn that into case studies as well. This is what I improved. The other thing you can do is pick up a problem statement that you can call up 10 friends about. The important part is that you want to be able to call 10 people about it, because that's where you're starting to practice user research, right? Because when you design in professionally, you are not going to be a user. All of us designers, we develop a certain set of taste, so we like certain things and we don't, but we can't impose that on our users. So we got to learn to differentiate that, and this will help you. And then design an end-to-end product to solve that. For example, you could take, for example, whenever somebody comes over, I want to automatically give them a Wi-Fi, this thing which does that. Some problem statement that you face every day, right? Or when I want to know, what can we do, like metro, or how can we reduce, let me give you some problem statements. In COVID-19 times, how do we reduce metro and public transport risk? Can you make an app around that, so I can, maybe there's a bus tracking and I already know that seats are filled, not filled, and that is one case, end-to-end product that you could build, and you could call up 10 people about it, what are their concerns when they travel today, right? Then all of these projects become case studies. A case study structure, if you want to know, I have tons of videos on my channel but simply speaking, you want to start with problem statement. Always start with the problem statement. You don't start with, oh, it looked better. That's fine for your personal practice, but designers solve problems and improve lives. So what did you improve? What was the problem statement you began with? And what was your exploration, and then coming to your solution and the final results? And if you actually made that prototype and you tested with 10 users, that design with 10 users, that is going to blow people's mind. You combine 3 to 5 case studies to make a portfolio. Using that portfolio, by the time you have 2 or 3 case studies, you can start applying for internships. And by the time you have 2-3 internships, you should be ready to get a pre-placement offer or apply for a full-time role. Now, that is how you learn design for yourself in 7 steps. If something is not clear, let me know in the chat. We're going to come now. Speaking of chat, we're going to now take the questions in the chat. Shani Ganguly says, examples of product designer, we covered that. So I'm going to skip to Aman Dikshit's question. How can we define product as concerned to companies like Ola? So Ola will have several products, right? One of the products is the consumer app, right? Another app could be that they have a product called vendor app or driver app. And these are Ola's products. Essentially, they are a technology company which delivers services using product. So that is one way to look at Ola. But honestly speaking, the definition is not as important, but the product concerns will apply there. For example, a product concern like how big is the market for the service? How many of them can Ola acquire? At what price point? How many of them respond? Etc. 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 Which are product management concerns still apply to Ola. So therefore, that is how we think about it. Bahauddin Aziz says, where and how can I get internships? So you want to take that portfolio and you want to start looking, there are tons of websites like LinkedIn, You have AngelList. LinkedIn AngelList are two biggest one, where people list tons of internships. You can, and there are a bunch of news people run newsletters as well, where you can find design specific roles and openings. You can follow Madhuri Maram. I think you can Google for hire worthy Madhuri. Hire. I'm just gonna write that in the chat. You can just, she runs on her Twitter handle. She often posts about the new design opening, new design internship. There are a bunch of folks who do that on Twitter. There are people who do that on various social media. So you can keep an eye out and apply with your portfolio, right? That is how you get an internship in design. Udyan says, I'm learning from Coursera course design by CAL Arts. Let me know what is your experience. Oh, nice. It's free under financial aid. That's awesome. That's awesome use of your time, Udyan. Love that. Let me know what has been your experience of the course so far, and if you have any specific question relating to that. Amrita Pandey says, and also build end-to-end product point. Amrita, can you explain detail about design case study? For sure. So I'll switch to this screen. So Amrita is talking about point number 4, and Amrita is talking about point number 5. So what do I mean by build end-to-end product? So end-to-end product is, in simplest way, a website or an app in our case, right? Because if we can think of a product as a physical product as well, but we won't be able to design that as a student unless you have the resources, right? So in our case, the product is an app or a website. Now you want to build it end to end, meaning every screen, all the flows in a prototype manner, right? You can create prototypes. You can link various screens to create prototypes in Figma, which means how the user signs up, how a new user does onboarding. Once once they've done onboarded, then how do they use the app day to day, and how that entire screen to screen flow works. So you want to design each and every step along the way. That is what I mean by build end-to-end products. For example, if we were designing a chatting app, now you'll have to design, how do I sign up a chatting app? How do I add my friends? How do I kickstart a new chat? How do I reply to chat? How do I know a new chat has come? So you design all the screens every step along the way. What that teaches you is all the nuances that go into building product. From outside, we don't see them, but that they are there. Like that is how design is done, right? So, and what do I mean by case study? You want to now document throughout when you're working on this project that this is the problem statement I picked up, right? Then I called 10 people, and this is what I learned about this problem statement. I thought that chatting is a problem, but then I realized, only chatting between close friends when they don't want to know want others to know that they were chatting is a unique problem. I'm just thinking out loud here, just an example, right? And then you say, okay, then I made these kind of explorations, and then I went back to those users to test with them my prototypes, whether it kind of solves their problem or not, right? And now I continue to do that. These are my iterations, and finally I arrived at this final design, and this final design, then this is what it looks like. So that problem statement, your explorations, or everything you did, your process, and your final outcome, right, is what your case study looks like. That is what one project, one case study. You describe what you did, how you solved the problem, and 3 or 4 of them together become your portfolio, right? Amrita, I hope I've answered that question for you. Switching to chat again, folks. Bahauddin says, what if I don't have a certification but a good portfolio? A good portfolio will always work better than any kind of certification. If 2 designers come to me, both with portfolios, one has a certification, one doesn't, I ignore the certification, I look at portfolios. If neither of you have portfolios, then I will look at certification. But if any one of you have portfolios, portfolio is always the precedence, because I don't care about the certification. I want to know that you can solve the problems, right, when I'm hiring someone. Ishani Ganguly says, sir, how to know about typography? Beautiful question. So you can start learning the basics of typography. In fact, I have a 1-hour lecture on introduction of typography. It's from Nitish Yadav. He's a type designer who studied type design. He did masters in type design from Reading University, University of Reading or Reading. I'm forgetting how to pronounce it. It's a 1-hour lecture on introduction to type, and then there are very specific terminology that you will discover in that video. Then you can start Googling those terms, and then there are tons of books you can study, etc. And if you really want to get deeper into that, then you can also apply for masters. Speaking of which, now coming to, I'm quickly going to take questions, but like before I forget, I'm going to quickly go to here. So this is how you learn design for free. But we also spoke about 3 other options. We spoke about paid courses. When should you do a paid course? only when you need a certification to prove something somewhere, that helps. But once you start self-learning, you don't need certification, right? So I would ignore that. Now there are two parts left. One is college degree, and another is mentorship programs run by actual designers. When can you utilize them? Perfect example was Ishani Ganguly asking, how do I know more about typography? Let's say she start learning about typography. And then either she realizes she really is a designer who loves typesetting and typography, or she also gets interested in designing type, right? Then is perfect time to use the option of joining a university. When you want to hyper specialize, right? When you want to, let's say you become a UX researcher and you want to get better at do research around methodology of UX and research methodologies, and you want to get deeper into that. So when you really want to specialize in design after, let's say, 3-4 years of you working in the industry, that is a perfect time to pick up a master's. You will have far better network, far better chance of getting a scholarship and everything, and you will know what to make out of that degree. And that is when I would suggest getting into masters to specialize. And the other option we spoke about is mentorship program. There are often places you will feel stuck in your career. You're not able to progress because you're just not able to know how, what is the next logical step or where you lack. That is a perfect time to reach out for some mentors and join some of these mentor classes. The important point there is you want to make sure that the person has real life industry experience, and as close they are to the industry you are working in, the better it is. So if you work in food industry, try to find a mentor who also has experience in food industry. So that is wanted to just cover those two options as well, so you guys don't end up spending a lot of money needlessly. Now coming back to more questions. Amrita says, so point 4 will also include design plus coding? No, in point 4 you just want to build prototype. So these days you don't need to code. Let's say I have two screens, right? Let's say first screen is Google homepage, and then there's a button which I click and then shows the results. What I can do in Figma is design these two screens and mark an area that there's a button and link this screen to this screen. So when a user taps on this screen, the thing will automatically shift to other screen. So you can build prototypes like this without coding at all. As a designer, you don't need to code. You don't need to know how to code, right? There are designers who specialize in code as well, but those are UX engineer, prototyping engineer. That's a specialized field. There are a bunch of titles you will hear. For example, motion designer. If you're interested in motion, animation, graphic, a lot of motion designers are coming to product design fields as well. 3D animators are coming to product designers, as you will see a lot of illustration, visual communication design. So graphic design, people say social media, handler, social media creative designer, graphic designer. They are large umbrella of what we call visual communication designer. So your type designer, icon designer, illustrator, all of these folks come under visual communication design, right? So that is another large umbrella of designers. You will see many of you folks will end up specializing there, and it's changing. You can't just be a normal graphic designer anymore. You have to specialize. So either you specialize in motion design, or you specialize in cultural poster design. Somewhere you specialize in build names. So visual communication design is a vast field, and it's very competitive. So thank you for that question, Amrita. I hope that helps you figure out that you don't need to code. You just need to prototype. Udyan has a question. I like the path and peer grading facility available in Coursera. I can grade others' projects and learn from. That's beautiful, Udyan. That's exactly, there are a bunch of mentor programs that offer that as well. The fact that you got that for free is amazing. So do check out what Udyan is talking about. If nothing else, this peer-to-peer interaction is invaluable in design. There's also a WhatsApp Telegram group run by Abhinav Chikara. I think, if I'm not wrong, this is his Telegram group. If I'm not wrong, then you can join that group as well. Post your new designs there and get feedback, or you can hit me up on Instagram and actually hit me up with a case study. Because if you send me design in progress, most likely I'll not be able to get time to give feedback. But if you worked on a case study in a portfolio, send it over. You will get a special precedence, and we'll include that in the review. Udyan says learning path is easy to understand and gradually increases in the complexity. Basically, if one knows the tool, it's easy. Exactly. I think, Udyan, you have beautifully summarized that, and bring us back to the loop. That is why you want to learn the tool first, right? That is why you progress faster, because now tool is not in your way. And it's really not difficult. If you folks know how to use Instagram, if you know how to create nice stories, if you know how to use TikTok, you can use Figma. It's really not that difficult. Just watch a lot of people use Figma. Your brain will automatically start picking up on cues. Ishani Ganguly says, sir, how to test and prototype and micro animation? So how to test a prototype. So there are three different terms you used. A micro animation is when you're animating this thing. You can do basic micro animation, like for example, I click on favorite and it, sparkles come out, and that heart gets filled. So that is a micro animation. You can, most of that you can, basics ones you can build in Figma. For advanced ones, you may need something like Lottie, you may need something like After Effects, or you may want something like Principle. The Framer, there are a bunch of options you can do for advanced animations. And how do you test and how do you do prototype? All of these tools will also offer you prototyping. And how do you test? That's a very good, very good, very good question, Ishani. What I would do is, in this example, what we were talking about, of you doing this and building this end-to-end products, or taking an existing product and adding, adding a feature or an improvement on top of an existing app. How do you want to test for this is, I would suggest there are multiple testing methods, but what do you want to, you will use two methods. First, for research, you will use something called open-ended question answers. You want to do an open-ended research, or you can look up for ethnographic research as well. Now we specifically come to testing. Once you build this, how do you want to test it with users? You want to do simplest thing called task-based testing. Task-based testing, where you give user a task, right? So for example, if I was designing Ola app, I won't give them the entire Ola app prototype. It's not even possible to easily create that entire prototype. You create certain pathways, right? For example, booking an app, booking a cab, checking for a cab, or cancelling a cab, or finding your cab. These are 4 tasks that a user will do, right, during their journey. While using your app, you should look up this term that I'm putting in chat called user journey maps. They help you chart out what a user will do while interacting with your product, and then you know all these tasks that happen, right? Another framework that helps you do that is jobs to be done framework, right? These are 2 frameworks you can use to sort of look at what is happening here. Now, once you have those tasks, now create prototypes that allow you to do that task, right? So example, all the screens are booking screens. Now you want to give that prototype to the user in the phone or on the screen and ask them to use it. Don't guide them, don't narrate them. If they go like, should I click here or here, you ask them, where do you want to click? Why? What do you feel like doing? What are your thoughts, right? Because you won't be there when they are using your interface, when they're using your app or website. So that is how you test with users, right? There are a bunch of videos on YouTube where you can see this being done live as well, but most of them are in person, because you have far more ability to read, expression of another person. You have ability to read their how they're thinking about it, whether they're stuck or not. But now more and more of this is also gonna move online. So that is what you can do as well. I hope that answers your question, Ishani. Beautiful question. Bahauddin says, finally, are you looking for any interns? Bahauddin, I wish we were looking for interns. Usually we are. Unfortunately, during COVID times, it's quite uncertain. So we are at this moment not looking for interns, but by the end of this year, things may open up, because travel is returning back normal faster than than we expected. Otherwise, trust me, like usually I've never been in a scenario where I'm not looking for amazing interns, and especially people like you who've been asking such amazing questions and already making such good progress, like would be wonderful intern. However, what I can do for you is, if you have created a case study and portfolio, hit me up on DM me on Instagram, and I will include that portfolio case study in the next review I do on my YouTube. On my YouTube, I do a series of designer case study and portfolio reviews. And a lot of hiring managers, a lot of companies, managers, big companies like including Ola, Swiggy, etc., look at those videos and reach out to folks who get featured there. In fact, the last video, the second part that I did, Signal Strategy from Ola reached out and said, please share my email ID with everyone that you featured in that video. We like all of their portfolios. So that's what I can help you with for now, Bahauddin, that if you have a portfolio, link me up, and we will feature that in the next case study review. Utkarsh Srivastava says, please explain difference between graphic design, UX design, UI design, product design, interaction design, etc. If I know that you explain, these are so correlated. Yes, they are very correlated. In fact, they overlap a lot. Like UX and interaction design overlap so much, and then UI is a subsection of UX design. So instead of looking at all of these terms, right? In fact, let me switch to the screen. Beautiful question today we are getting, folks. So I'm going to quickly move back to this, right? You see web design and UI design term here emerge. These are some of the terms you see, right? And there's a whole lot of other terms as well. But I would say is, let's take one by one, right? I'm going to give you example. The graphic designer, who's a graphic designer, right? When you see a poster or when you see a social media post that was designed by a visual communication designer who was doing graphic design. So when you say a designer, that's a person. When I say graphic design, that's a skill set. So it's better, instead of looking at these as titles, we start looking at that as skill set. So I'm going to rename all of the designer as design in your question, Utkarsh. And let's see what happens. So when you see a poster or social media post that was designed by a visual communication design using principles of graphic design, right? I hope that helps in the first example. UX design. Once when you book an Ola and you enter and there's Ola Play and AC or not, and they have some rating and they have some SOS features. Somebody's thinking about all of these experience, right? All of these interaction, regardless of the app, right? From whether it's human or whether it's on the app, throughout the journey when the customer is interacting with the brand or with an given experience. Then when you take that perspective, that perspective is that of a UX design, right? That is coming from a UX design perspective. What is the outcome of UX design? A seamless experience between you being able to open the app, book the app, find the app, and do etc. Remember when Uber launched a feature where you could have a colored screen and the driver would have a colored screen as well? That most likely was an idea of a UX designer who noticed that problem. Or interaction designer, those terms are often used interchangeably. They have subtle differences, but they are largely theoretical. In practical purposes, there is not that much of a difference. That is the second term, UX design. Then we come to UI design. The chat that you're writing it with, there's a send button, there's an emoji, this thing, there's a chat interface. I have designed this screen that you're seeing on page as well. And this interface that you see of the chat right here was designed by a user interface designer using principles of UI design. Now, UI design is also inherits things from visual communication, but in very special, like you said, they are correlated because we all work on same principles. Like that is why I was showing you the screen. If you go back, designers talk about usability. Usability comes from architects. We talk about scalability. Scalability comes from industrial designer. We talk about system design. Design system thing comes from engineering, right? We talk about Gestalt principles. We talk about aesthetics. Aesthetics come from media, communication, arts, and arts folks, right? Color theory, that comes from art and psychology folks. So all of these fields are super related. In fact, design itself is one field where we rarely create our own theories. We rarely create our own this thing. We always are mixing and matching everybody else's. In fact, that is why I mentioned we bridge gaps, right? Whatever it takes. That is why designers, all these design titles have very overlapping meanings, and rightly so, because we need to take a different perspective onto something. You can think about a poster like a UX designer and still be a visual communication designer and design a graphic poster. Then we come to another term called product design. Now, this YouTube live is a package, right? This was designed by me, a product designer. This entire slide show you saw is an end-to-end consumable package by you folks. That's a product. So I am here acting like a product designer using skill sets of product design. That what all will you need. Another example is when for example, this, right, Odomos, whatever. This can open, this can do this thing, etc., etc. How many people will buy it in this or tube? These are concerns of both an industrial and a product designer, but largely a product designer. But that is an industrial design example. This will confuse you. So this example is actually industrial design. My bad, folks. Let's give you example of product design. So Kindle, right? Kindle has an OS inside. Like you can have certain books, etc., and certain way it looks. How does that entire system inside work? Kindle as a product is designed by both product and industrial designer. The software and the UI inside and how it interacts with different things was work of a product designer. The outer body and how the lighting happens was work of an industrial designer, right? So that is, people often confuse the two. So it's an important difference between product. The product word in product designer means the business idea of product, right? That you sell a unit of product. That is the idea of product design. The industrial part of in industrial design is what refers to this physical production and mass production, right? Then last part is you mentioned interaction design. Like we mentioned on the screen, that we designers who take the point of view that we design interactions, whether it's in digital app, whether it's service, whether it's spoken word. These are interaction designers, and this UX designers and interaction designers take the same way. So let me give you some practical examples as well of how these terminologies is used in the industry. Graphic designers, most likely what companies mean when they say graphic designers, most likely going to work on social media posts, etc., etc., etc. UX designer most likely is going to focus on UX research, right? UI designer is most likely going to build the interface. Product designer is going to do both research and the interface. Interaction designer will also do both the research and the interface. So they are same in this terminology. In applicable term, product designer and interaction designer are actually closer to each other than UX and interaction designer. So that is why this overlap is it's a big mess. It's a big mess. That's why I say don't worry about trying to figure out those terms. I'll give you an easier way. When you look at the job listing, look at what they are saying, that these are the requirements. Look at the requirement, forget the title. And if you're still confused, email them what are the top 3 projects that you will, when you get on a call with an interview, ask them what are the top first 3 projects that I'll get to work on as a designer in this company. And what they say will tell you what kind of designer they are looking for. Because often people who write these titles and job postings are not designers themselves, so they don't understand these nuances. So they just pick UI UX designer. So I hope I have theoretically and practically both explained to you some of these terms and told you don't worry about these terms too much. You will change these terms throughout your life, right? And Shubham Singla says, actually, there is simple question. What is the user persona? I read many things, but still not clear. Then you can explain in easy language. That would be helpful. Yes, Shubham, I can try to explain user persona to you. When let's say you say that I want to add a feature on WhatsApp, which is payment feature. You call up 10 friends about it. Now you realize that there are 2 kind of friends that you saw. One kind of friends are who often send each other small amount of money. The other kind of friends you saw do not have that problem at all, or have it very rarely, right? And you also have to realize that they have very similar kind of motivation. Their lifestyle is different, their persona is different, their attributes are different, right? Let's take a real life example. Let's take this example, right? Mosquito repellent. What kind of personas that exist? They can either you have a big family, right? And you need to buy for 4 to 6 people, so you will buy a bigger pack. You will buy and you will then But if you buy a bigger pack, then it may spill out. So you want something like tube, right? So I can when I'm drawing persona, one persona is this family user, right? User persona, that this person is buying for their family, and because their motivations, their journey in life is different, so that persona represents the story and attributes of a lot of your population, right? Then the other kind of persona could be individuals who travel and want small sachets and therefore prefer this design. So now I have 2 user personas for whom I may need to design a little differently, right? For example, tube for families and a bottle works for individuals because it's smaller. So that's just a vague example, but the idea of a user persona is, let me ask you, okay, design the best app, chatting app, okay, in the world. Now that's very hard. WhatsApp has already done that. Now I keep getting specific. Design the best chatting app for your college. Design the best chatting app for the first year students of your college. Design the best chatting app for the first year student of your college who always run late, right? Now as I get specific, you have more and more ideas popping up in your head, right? That is what the reason is, that I'm describing from a user group of students to a very specific persona of people in MAIT who are always late to their class. That is a user type, a set of attributes. Now I can give that a name. Now I'm designing for this person. What that helps you do is imagine scenarios and journey map, right? So later on you will pick up scenarios, and scenarios you'll put in journey maps, and you will start using those instead of personas. These days we don't use personas often because in a country like India there'll be so many personas, because you will have hundreds of personas. So instead what we do is we map needs of the user and need states of the user. That's a completely different topic. That's a whole big topic. We are almost at the end of our live stream, so we're going to quickly cover the last few questions. Udyan says, if I design a beer can's appearance, type of, it's packaging design. It's packaging design, and packaging design is it will come in under visual communication design in this specific scenario, right? Because you're designing the appearance, so it's visual communication. If you were designing the actual can, how that opens up, what the curvature would be, what the material goes, then you would be an industrial designer. But since you're very specific, Udyan, if I design a beer can's appearance, then you are a packaging designer, right? Ishani Ganguly says, JD, JavaScript have HTML, CSS requirements all over. Is it necessary to know? Who designer JD has HTML, CSS requirement? That is strange. Avoid those companies. Most likely services companies who do not understand design. I would avoid those companies. Is it part of user research? Is it a part of user research? What is a part of user research, Shubham Sigla? Actually, there is a simple question. Yes, user personas are a part of user research. They're an outcome of user research. They're not part of you. So when you research your 10 people, we spoke about, you will call 10 people. Most likely you'll get 1 or 2 personas from those 10 people. It's impossible to get more than 2 personas after talking to 10 people. Very rarely do you get more than that, unless you were really good at finding a sample set or got lucky. But yes, as a researcher, you will produce user personas as an outcome of your research. Sneha Chakraborty says, yes, okay, why not product design? For the beer can. The reason it's not product design is because you're not thinking about market, you're not thinking about business metrics, you're not thinking about, remember we spoke about, do not confuse product design with industrial design, right? When you design physical products, that's called industrial design, not product design. I know it's counterintuitive, but that is we also spoke about the historical reasons for that, why that comes from that. So that is why they are closer to an industrial designer than a product designer. But if you were coming, let's say you worked at Bira, okay, I'm very, very specific scenario where this could be a product designer, called a product designer, right? You work at Bira and you work with your team, your merchandising and every team to launch a new line of beer products, right? A new kind of beer, right? Let's say a beer that doesn't smell. Now you're working like a product designer, right? Now you're working like a product designer. So the product, because now you're talking about market, how big the market is of people who drink beer, how many of them don't like the smell, how many of them don't mind the smell themselves, but this thing don't like the smell, there are people around them, how many of them would pay for it. Now you're adding business value there. That is what makes you a product designer, right? But if you're thinking about what material to use, how the curvature will happen, how many turn does it take, how will they open it, can it stand, will it tilt, how much liquid can we put it, what is it all, like ratios of these kind of considerations are that of an industrial designer in this specific case. That is why I said, folks, this is a vast and open field. No matter which title you pick up, my favorite title is buzzword designer. Buzzword designer. I call myself buzzword designer or interaction designer at times, or UX designer at times. You will use different terms, folks, and these terms will keep evolving. Like we saw, this is not going to end. So there's no point in debating about the specificity. If you like doing that, there are academic papers available on arguing from HCI point of view, arguing exactly these definitions, and you can join in and write your own papers as well if you disagree with any one of them. But that is where you can go. But like in practical terms, I said always talk to your hiring manager or the HR, whoever you can reach out to first, to understand what first 3 projects that you will be given as a designer in this role. That will give you a far better clarity on what kind of design they're talking about than any of their job description or anything else they publish, unless they have a superbly good design team already, in which case you can start to trust their JD. But even then, I would take what they say in interview above and over what they say on the job description. So don't take these titles seriously. Don't even take this JD seriously. Go out, apply, use your portfolio, and then talk to the hiring manager. I hope this helps you, folks. How do you see UX UI field in the light of AI? Oh, Aman, a beautiful question you have asked, but like we are running out of time, so I have to call that, as I'll cover that very quickly. But AI is helping us to build even better tools. AI will require us to build more design as well. What AI will do is make decision making easier. The redundant decisions we do, this padding, that padding, this color, that color, will this color go well, that color, all that is going to be taken care of by the AI. What you're going to decide is, what do you actually say? Do you say no contact delivery, or can you communicate that without any words? We're going to be paid for our decisions, not for rendering rectangles, not for making basic decisions, right? So AI is gonna make our lives easier, gonna challenge us more as designers to think harder about what we do. Because you're talking about color palette, AI will give you 3,000 color palettes. You're talking about new UI, AI will redesign for you. But you, as a designer, my friend, will have to pick whether the design is better or not for which user, because you, my friend, is aware of this reality of the users that AI cannot be, right? And with that, my friends, I will say thank you so much for joining in. Um, and what is the best way to do primary research? Call up 10 friends, Garima. Beautiful question. Call up 10 friends. Ananya Gupta says how to pick up a problem for case study. Look at your own life or whichever things you complain about. Those are the problems you should pick up. Dhyan Oja, thank you so much for this valuable live session. Thank you, Madhavan. Thank you, sir. Wonderful session. EDC MAIT. Thank you so much, MAIT, for having me over. Thank you so much. This was wonderful interaction. Do not forget to like. I'm going to be this will remain private, unlisted, for you to you'll be able to watch it for let's say about next 1-2 weeks, and after that I'm gonna edit the video and put up the highlights video. So make sure you come check that out as well. And if you're getting started with design or you're interested in becoming a product manager or designer, make sure you check out the rest of the videos on my YouTube channel. And once again, thank you so much, Shubham, for inviting me over. Thank you so much, MAIT ED-CELL for having me over. This was wonderful. And don't forget to let's talk on, if you want to talk, if you want to DM me, I am available, and I am King Siddharth on